I'm pregnant with Henry's child. The baby will be here soon. Please break up with him." Before I could even be surprised, I was dismayed by my sister Lisa's words when she suddenly showed up at my house. She cheated on her sister's husband and then proudly told me she was pregnant. I never expected her to be so shameless. "It's because you couldn't get pregnant that this happened. You brought this on yourself. You're just defective, aren't you?" Lisa and Henry laughed down at me. I felt a growing sense of disgust at the sight of them cozying up to each other as if to flaunt their affair. The difference between sisters is just too much. I was so stunned by their treatment, I couldn't even speak. Henry's look at me was shockingly cold. "I'm getting remarried, so let's divorce. If you want to, I'll break up with you. But I wonder if it's really Henry's child because he is after Lisa's son," Henry said, and left the house. I was left alone, but being alone allowed me to think deeply. Actually, things are getting interesting. Just you wait. I will definitely make them pay for what they did to me. My name is Kate. I married Henry, the vice president and the son of the company's president, when I was 30. My in-laws from back when I was just an employee treated me very well, and they introduced me to Henry, which is how we got married. My parents also blessed this marriage, and our relationships around us were good. Even after we married, I continued working at the same place, and everything seemed to be going well at first. I never imagined I would be pushed to such misfortune afterward. Henry, who was initially kind, changed drastically after we got married. "Hey, Henry, if you're going to be late, could you at least let me know in advance?" "Why should I have to report my schedule to you? I'll do whatever I want." "But I have to prepare dinner." "Shut up. Don't order me around. It's all up to you anyway." And yet, if dinner isn't ready when he wants to eat, he gets angry all the same. Watching Henry storm out while yelling right after we married, Henry began to squander money. He dumped his work on his junior employees and started playing around, claiming it was business. He wandered the night streets and almost always came home in the morning. I thought he had settled down after becoming a working adult, but his true nature had shown itself. "What do you mean?" I went to the same college as him, and back then he was famously extravagant, partying every day and dating multiple girls at once. It got so bad the president got angry. I heard he was almost disowned. After that, he calmed down and seemed serious, I said. The reality that such a phenomenon as being too shocked to speak exists struck me. My voice, which I somehow managed to squeeze out, was trembling. "I had no idea," I said. The coworker who told me this nodded repeatedly beside me. When he joined the company, he was really serious. Everyone thought he got scolded, and it opened his eyes. That's probably why the president made him vice president. "So that's what happened," I said. "Kate, you're well regarded in the company. Introducing you as his wife made him careless. He probably convinced himself, now I can take over the company." Indeed, Henry's reputation visibly worsened. Some people are saying that Henry should be fired and the managing director should take over as vice president. That jerk. He mocked me again. He should understand his place. Henry keeps grumbling about the managing director when he's at home. It was uncomfortable for me because he's my direct boss. Why do you, my wife, have to be that guy's employee? I'm the accountant. Even as I trembled at his shouting, it seemed he didn't like my rebuttal. Henry hit the wall, making a loud noise. "Shut up. Don't talk back. Just fire him. It's harassment or whatever. You work with him. You can figure it out." "That's impossible. He's a serious person." "Don't take his side. You're my wife." Henry only complains and doesn't seem to try at all. Moreover, he has never brought money home since we got married. I've been managing all the household finances with my salary. I'm working full-time now, so we're getting by, but I'm worried about the future. "Hey, could you contribute a little to the household, even if just for groceries or utilities?" "Why should I give my money to you? You work too." That's no way to talk. Aren't we a married couple? You could at least split the living expenses with me. For the first time, I really stood up to Henry's anger. I was the one paying for everything: groceries, utilities, and life was truly difficult. It's not possible for one person to support a lifestyle meant for two, but Henry didn't understand. He probably didn't even want to. To him, I'm just a decoration to keep around for the sake of inheriting the company. Geez, so you married me just for my money? That's not it at all. It's difficult to maintain the lifestyle you want on my salary alone. That's why I'm asking for help. Shut up. This is why I hate people like you. It makes me sick. Don't show your face for a while. This is going nowhere, Henry shouted. I hesitated to consult my in-laws. They are good people, and I don't want to worry them or cause friction because of Henry. They are as important to me as my own parents. If the in-laws tried to talk to Henry, he would likely take it out on me. I didn't want that either. The house we live in was built by my in-laws. They provided the money and left all the decisions about the house to Henry and me. Back then, he was still reasonable, and it was enjoyable to decide on the house details together. Now it feels like a distant memory. To repay the kindness of my in-laws who even built us a house, I'll try a little harder. I set off for work determined and new, remembering their kindness. I've endured Henry for 3 years now. His behavior has only gotten worse, and now he's a spoiled son. Moreover, he boasts about not contributing financially to the house when he's out drinking. Because of that, I've been labeled as timid and unable to hold the reins on my husband, or alternatively, a poor woman stuck with a no-good man. This makes me feel out of place even when I'm shopping. I feel like someone unknown is talking about me even within the company. There are those who look down on me for not being able to discipline Henry properly. Why let your husband do whatever he wants? If I were in the same house, I couldn't stand it. Is she afraid of divorce? Look, even with him like that, if she keeps quiet, she will be the president's wife in the future. If the spoiled son becomes our president, it'll be like the president's wife is practically the president. It's like a takeover. Such a quiet face, but scary. Complaining to Henry only results in getting yelled at. If someone like him becomes the president, the employees will surely be left in the lurch. He probably directs his frustrations and anxieties towards me. Kate, you look pale. Are you okay? John asked. Yes, I'm okay. If you ever have any troubles, feel free to talk to me. Thank you. I appreciate it. My in-laws, John and Sarah, have also been subtly looking out for me. But I still haven't been able to bring myself to discuss Henry with them. Thinking I could still bear it, I kept postponing the discussion, which made me feel as if I was hiding something. Tormented by guilt and unable to tell properly about my situation, I became less talkative, and it seems like I've grown distant from my in-laws. We now read each other as if handling a delicate matter, which pains my heart despite them being truly good people. I am the reason they look so distressed. Playing the good girl again, right? Would she like to be the president's wife even with such a terrible husband? The spoiled son said she's a gold digger. Might not be entirely wrong. They even have their houses built, people gossiped. The workplace has become an uncomfortable place. I got depressed about going to work. The only saving grace was that my direct superior, the managing director, treated me with a very impartial attitude. Dan, the managing director whom Henry unilaterally dislikes, has been very businesslike in his dealings with me. Despite my uncomfortable position, despite the distance with my in-laws, and being the subject of rumors, his impartial demeanor is a relief. Kate, could you make a copy of this document for me? Yes, Dan. Playing nice with both the managing director and the vice president, trying to please everyone. Kind of vibe. Thinking either would be fine as president, isn't she? Jesus, such an ambitious woman. I am just doing what I need to do. No matter what they say, I'm just working. It's not my fault, I thought. No matter how many times I reassure myself, my hands tremble. Later, I heard that the in-laws told Henry, "We cannot let you take over the company as it is." It was Henry, red-faced and furious, who told me that. "It's your fault because you can't have kids, we're being told this. I don't understand why we've come to this. He comes home in the morning almost every day, and there's no way we're going to have a baby. Why would they say that? Your parents just want you to work seriously. You're saying I don't work? Don't be ridiculous. I'm much busier and contribute more to the company than you. I earn a much better salary. There's no way you would understand my work." Once it gets to this point, Henry is beyond help. Like a child, he throws a tantrum and I just have to wait for him to release his stress. I shrugged and waited for the storm to pass while Henry continued yelling. "It's your fault because you can't have a child. We need a son. Go through fertility treatment or whatever and hurry up and produce an heir." "I can't." "Don't talk back." Henry started throwing things around like a child. I crouched down, covering my head to avoid getting hit. "Okay, I'll undergo fertility treatment. Will you help?" "Why should I bother when it's your fault? You're the defective one. Don't make a fool of me." Frightened by Henry's rampage, but at the same time, disgust and exhaustion overwhelmed me. Why do I have to endure this treatment? The in-laws meant well by warning him, but it seems to have backfired. Such actions are unimaginable for normal people. If I do as he says, at least the tantrums will stop. I gave up on everything and became submissive to Henry. A year into the fertility treatment, as Henry demanded, the test showed that there was nothing wrong with my health, and I was capable of conceiving. The doctor suggested that the problem might be with my husband, but Henry stubbornly refused to get tested. Henry would become sullen and sometimes lash out at objects, leaving me and the doctors unable to speak up about the situation. Suspected of infertility, Henry told me to see another doctor. But no matter where I went for tests, the results were the same, and Henry just got more irritable. "Could you come to the hospital with me just once? There might be things I'm not noticing on my own," I asked him humbly. "No, I'm busy. I don't have time to deal with your mess." "But without your help, we can't even do IVF. It seems there's nothing wrong with my eggs, so I'd like to move to the next step. I know it takes your time, but could you just help this once?" It seems I was right to say it was for my fertility treatment instead of Henry's test. I thought he might refuse, but at least he wouldn't be too upset. He frowned slightly but looked at me scrutinizingly. "You're paying for this treatment, right?" "Of course. It's my mess. I'll take full responsibility." "Okay then, I guess I'll go." His arrogant attitude was exasperating, but this way I managed to get Henry to the hospital. He started talking about money almost immediately, making it hard to tell who was the real money grubber. However, seeing me actively trying to have his child seemed to improve his mood significantly. He probably likes being adored. No matter how old he gets, he's childish and immature. Even at the hospital, he reluctantly followed instructions, and then, ignoring me and the doctor, he left on his own. I was left alone to listen to the doctor's explanations, feeling utterly lost. That's just the kind of person he is, so his subsequent actions didn't surprise me much. "Long time no see, Kate." "Lisa? Why are you here?" One day my sister Lisa suddenly visited. Seeing my sister proudly smiling with her big belly, I had a bad feeling. Lisa had always been the carefree type, living at our parents' house until recently without working or doing much of anything. But ever since I married Henry, she'd stopped coming around our parents' house. At first, our parents were worried, but knowing her playful nature, they assumed she must have moved in with a boyfriend and gave up. I never imagined she'd show up suddenly pregnant. From the looks of it, she seemed about to give birth soon. "I'm pregnant with Henry's child. It's going to be born soon. Please divorce Henry for me," Lisa announced. It must have been planned. Henry, who was unusually at home, embraced Lisa's shoulders and sneered at me. "Lisa is right. A woman who can't get pregnant is unnecessary. I've stayed with you to save face for my parents, but I've reached my limit. You spent all that money on treatments and still not pregnant. Henry's bothered by it, you know," Henry said, looking down at me, while Lisa smiled triumphantly. Their closeness and despicable appearance left me beyond anger. I was dumbfounded. "I've been in trouble because she wouldn't get pregnant no matter how long I waited. You're just defective, aren't you?" Henry continued. Their words were vile and hurtful. They seemed to think of nothing but how to hurt me. "He doesn't need any more defects like you." "I'm getting remarried, so let's divorce," Henry declared. I was lost for words. I knew he was promiscuous, but I never expected him to cheat with my sister. I had thought it odd how flirty Lisa acted when I introduced Henry, but I never imagined it would go this far. "Okay, I'll get ready. Please give me a moment," I said. Judging that I had broken both Lisa and Henry seemed pleased. What drives them to this extent? I don't recall ever doing anything to harass or hurt them, but it's shocking to realize they dislike me enough to treat me this way. Stress is poison to the baby, you know. If you had any decent sense, you'd celebrate your sister and husband's new beginning. Pack your bags and leave quickly. Henry lectured me on morals and common sense. Actually, can you just leave now? A useless woman who can't bear children is no good around here. Go back to your parents' house. They're sweet on you even though you're a failure, right? Lisa's words made my blood boil. My parents, though plain, supported me as I diligently studied, but it was the same for my sister. Despite her late nights out, they worried and scolded her, caring for her until now. I don't think my parents' love was unfair. I suppressed the urge to yell, trying to stay calm. It will take some time to pack and explain the situation to everyone. Please wait a little longer. As I pretended to be disheartened, they were visibly pleased, especially Lisa, who despite her forced displeasure couldn't hide the smile on her lips. Her expression twisted as if she enjoyed tormenting me. "I don't want to see your miserable face." Lisa's artificial falsetto was followed by Henry. "My Lisa and the baby could get sick. We can't help it, so we'll rent a hotel today. Just leave now, okay?" After saying what they wanted, they left the house bought by Henry's parents. They must have wanted their son to be responsible, and they cared about it deeply. My parents were worried about my sister Lisa. The two of them trampled on everyone's feelings. I will get my revenge, absolutely, I thought. If he wants to, I'll break up with him. I wanted a divorce too, so that part is welcome. But I will never allow those two to be happy. Just watch. I'll show them hell. I prepared and left the house immediately after packing, but for the divorce proceedings I kept dragging them out for various reasons. Meanwhile, I actively worked on laying the groundwork with others and gathering evidence. Since my sister's belly was quite large, she would probably give birth while I was making my revenge preparations. Because of their lack of planning, this situation arose. Being unmarried and giving birth must be difficult, but they seemed hardly aware of it. They told me to get a divorce quickly like harassment, but I didn't see their desperation. Truly, they are despicable people. I don't care if they're in trouble, but is it really Henry's child? Because of my wondering, I boldly decided to consult with Henry's parents. They had also been informed by Henry and were consulting with me, so it was a good opportunity. Everything was ready. Now all that's left is to show them hell. A month flew by, and I received news that Lisa had given birth. "How dare you show up here? Still haven't divorced Henry, clinging desperately to him," Lisa sneered as I entered the hospital room. The smirk on her lips meant she was enjoying taunting me. Henry also followed her lead, giving me an aggressive look. "I don't know what you told my parents, but we're strangers now, so stay out of it. he said. I thought, I get scolded by my parents. I think it's because of your unreasonable behavior, but there's no point in saying that, so I'll keep it to myself. Oh my God, is Kate stalking Henry? It's troublesome. I have Lisa after all, he added. They really are blissfully ignorant. I held back, trying not to show any emotion. Congratulations on the birth, I said. My words were met with nothing but condescending looks from both Lisa and Henry. They can only act like this for now. Hello! First of all, well done on the birth. My in-laws entered the hospital room. After that, my parents also came in. Sorry for coming in such a large group. We have something to discuss. Things might get a bit hectic from here, my parents said. Lisa and Henry, thinking they had won, sneered at me. Dad, Mom, finally a grandchild is born. Isn't it great? Sarah, John, please hold the baby. Lisa was already buttering up the in-laws in a false voice. The in-laws had stern expressions, and then my parents spoke up. Lisa, it seems we have spoiled you too much. Never did we imagine you would grow up to treat your own sister this way. We thought we'd always be on your side, but this is our limit. You are no longer welcome in our house. You are disowned, my dad said. My mom started crying upon hearing my dad's words. We told you over and over to be considerate of others' feelings, but it was all in vain, my mom added. Wait, what are you talking about? Lisa was bewildered by the suddenness. Mom, I can't believe you'd say such a thing to me. Someone who has just had a grandchild. I don't want to be part of a family with people like you anyway. Henry was on Lisa's side. He put his hand on Lisa's shoulder and glared at my parents. How unreasonable to say such a thing to your tired daughter who just gave birth. I can't forgive you even if you are Lisa's parents. Henry boasted to Lisa. I'll protect you, so don't worry. Henry, thank you, Lisa said. They were completely in their own world, intoxicated with themselves. After all the trouble they've caused, Lisa's ability to insult her parents as poor people is unbelievable. My parents, who were actually insulted, must have been more shocked than me. But they seemed prepared, showing no sign of disturbance. Perhaps unknown to me, there were already disputes and conflicts between Lisa and our parents, and they had given up on her long ago. You look indifferent, but you are disowned too. I'm not handing over the company to you, and you are fired as of today. Don't show your face ever again. What? What do you mean by that? At my father-in-law's words, it was now Henry who raised his voice. Lisa was pale and trembling. The status she insulted her parents for calling them poor was now hanging by a thread. I struggled not to laugh as I watched the two of them panic. I'm the only heir, right? We've had a child. Doesn't that secure the family's safety? Henry asked. What are you talking about? The in-laws were appalled by Henry's argument. Henry looked pathetic, almost ready to cling to the in-laws. Lisa still hadn't fully grasped the situation, just flustered. Comparing the in-laws and Henry, I thought, I could trust you with the company if you were capable, but even making you vice president was a mistake. I'll leave the company to a trusted employee. What the heck? Don't mess with me. Finally, Henry's tantrum exploded, his yelling echoing around the room. But his parents, used to it, did not even flinch. I'm talking about being president in the future. There's no way I'm allowed to do that now? That was your own declaration. We had nothing to do with it. Even the usually quiet mother-in-law confronted Henry resolutely. You say you're going to be the president, and it seems you've even borrowed money. But find a job yourself and pay back the money. We can't take care of you anymore. It wasn't surprising that Henry was in debt because he played around every day. He's a vice president, so he should be earning a decent amount. But his extravagant lifestyle and taste for women meant that his salary was never enough. It seems he had also bought cars and condos without the in-laws or my knowledge. Who knows how much debt he's accumulated? And then Lisa finally seemed to grasp the situation abandoning her ingratiating attitude and glaring at Henry. "What do you mean? This isn't what we discussed. What did I even have this child for?" But Henry seemed too preoccupied to care, engrossed in yelling at his in-laws. "You told me if a grandchild is born, prove the lineage. I even did the tests for that. What was all that for?" The color drained from Lisa's face. It seemed she would be in trouble if the tests were carried out. "What? I didn't know about this." Henry frowned at Lisa's shriek, as if annoyed by her. He glared at her as if to say she was annoying. Their previously affectionate behavior seemed like a lie. "What? What are you freaking out about? It's supposed to be my child, so there should be no problem. Why are you throwing a fit? I'm busy, so just shut up." "Actually, about that." The doctor my dad had called entered the room with a troubled expression. This friend of my father-in-law had agreed to help with my revenge. "Lisa's child is not related by blood to Henry." The room went silent for a moment. Lisa gasped for breath, and Henry was sweating at the doctor's words. Their faces turned pale. Thinking this was my only chance, I reached into my bag where I had secretly stashed numerous photos and pulled them out. "What's this? What is that?" The photos were of Lisa. There were dozens of photos of my sister with men. Some were of a man and woman entering a hotel where the woman was consistently my sister, but the man was not always Henry. Since her belly had gotten bigger, she seemed to have refrained from dating, and I couldn't gather any evidence. However, my sister's ex-boyfriend had hired a detective to conduct an infidelity investigation. I compensated him for the investigation fee and acquired the results. Lisa's ex-boyfriend, dumped because she was pregnant, had hired a detective. "If you wish, I've also gathered testimonies from the ex-boyfriend and other partners." Henry looked at Lisa with murderous eyes. He was trying to act like a victim, but he must also fall into this hell. "And remember when we went to the hospital for fertility treatment? I had those test results too." "Tests I wasn't informed of?" "Fertility treatments require preliminary tests. That's standard," the doctor said. "Let me explain," and tried to stop Henry. Yet he ignored the doctor's words and left on his own. His selfish actions had backed him into a corner, leading to this situation. It was his own fault. "Your sperm motility is extremely low. You're undoubtedly infertile. If you think it's a lie, take a good look at the test results." "No, that's a lie." Henry's reaction was more delightful than I had imagined. His face turned pale, and he snatched the test results from my hand with trembling hands. His eyes widened as he read the content over and over, sweat pouring from his entire body. With each word, his lips quivered as if he might collapse any moment. "The DNA test also showed the child isn't yours, and the father is probably one of the men in these photos," I said to Henry. As he became unsettled, knowing about his infertility, Henry then thrust the test results at me and yelled, "Lisa, did you deceive me?" But Lisa shot back just as fiercely. "Shut up. It's your fault you don't have sperm." "It's not like that at all. What an ass you are." Henry seemed in denial of reality and then glared at me. What a mess. "Hey, you're lying, right? How can I believe this piece of paper? You're just harassing me. It's because you're rejected. The defective one is you." "Am I defective?" The outrageous remarks made both sets of parents frown. It's unclear whether he's unaware of the surroundings or just doesn't care. The more Henry spoke, the worse he made his situation. My test results from every hospital came back normal. If you don't believe it, why don't you go and get tested at various hospitals yourself? I can't be bothered. Would that cut it out? Finally, my father-in-law raised his voice. "You need to stop. It's disgraceful. Don't add more embarrassment, please. Kate doesn't deserve this." At the words from the in-laws, Henry faltered. Instead of his yelling, Lisa chimed in. "It's all your fault. Now I'm doomed too. What are you going to do about this? Shut up. That's my line. You tricked me and brought a kid into this. Just disappear. What followed was an unbearable and nasty argument. Their relationship, after all, was connected by money motives. Both their true feelings and desires were exposed, making it embarrassing for anyone watching. If it weren't for your money, you'd have nothing good about you. Don't act high and mighty, you flashy old maid. Both sets of parents just shook their heads in dismay. I'm at a loss for words. How could you have turned out this way? The baby is the one I feel sorry for. It's not the child's fault. I was also worried about the child being raised by such parents. The future seemed uncertain, and it was even questionable if they'd be raised properly. Despite our worries, Lisa looked over at us. Apparently, her own matters were more important than her child's future. It's because you caught a weird man. My life is ruined. What are you going to do about it? Take responsibility. Henry grabbed Lisa by the shoulder, looking like he might hit her. What did you say? Don't touch me, you sterile man. Truly, it was utterly exasperating. I let out a long sigh, releasing all the patience I had been holding back. Your irresponsible actions are your own, not my fault. In fact, I'm the one who wants you to take responsibility. What? Don't mess with me. Always looking down on me. I've always hated that look in your eyes. In reality, it was Lisa who looked down on me, who could only live seriously. She might have had her own grievances against me and our parents. What a coincidence. I also have always disliked your words and attitude. You've continually looked down on me. What a way to talk. You're really an unattractive woman. That's why you get dumped. This must be what they call a double standard. It's just nonsense what they're saying. Negotiation is a waste of time. To conclude, I've decided to make them both take responsibility. I presented Lisa and Henry with a copy of the demand for damages that I had a lawyer prepare. I'm also filing for divorce from Henry. Since trying to resolve anything through discussion with these two would be futile, I took drastic measures. Both of you will pay properly. Considering the years and treatment I endured, the amount is small. They exploded in anger as if set on fire. A demand for damages from my sister? That's unacceptable. A money grubber. Are you that desperate for money? I just wanted to show them hell. The money was just a means to that end. From their reactions, this seemed to be the most effective way. The spectacle of their disgraceful behavior eventually wore thin the patience of both sets of parents, who raised their voices. Considering what Kate has been through, this is a small price. Be grateful it's no more. Someone who cheated with her sister's husband now has something to say. Talk about not knowing when to quit. However, scolding from blood-related parents has no effect on selfish people. Their eyes glared as if everyone but themselves were enemies. The sight of someone going half mad, hair disheveled, is terrifying even if you're prepared for it. If you also say we're strangers, then stop pretending to be parents. That's right. You have nothing to do with us anymore. If they had shown some remorse here, perhaps the disownment could have been revoked. Foolish people. They prioritize their desires and trivial pride without even realizing it. Why is this happening? Henry and I made eye contact. I had a bad feeling, but Henry acted before I could. He glared at me with a murderous look and lunged. Kate, it's all your fault. Whoa! I instinctively screamed, but the expected impact never came. Dan, you were here too? Dan, who had been outside, restrained Henry. My father-in-law, looking down at a gritting Henry, seemed sad. Our company will be left to Managing Director Dan, so you can rest assured and work to pay the damages. Henry hated Dan the most. He had always feared that his position was being threatened. That fear had become reality, and finally his mental balance was disrupted. Like a tantrum-throwing child, he started screaming and thrashing, but Dan holding him didn't flinch. I always knew he was unmanageable, but never thought it would come to this. Are you all right? Take him away quickly, please. Soon after, security arrived. They took Henry from Dan and tried to take him outside the hospital. It seemed Henry finally realized his dire situation. He broke free from the security and clung to my leg. The pitiful look in his eyes, filled with tears, was utterly revolting. It was my fault. Please don't leave me. Do you have no problem right at all? Dan spoke the words I wanted to say. He then pulled Henry away from clinging to me and protectively put his arm around me. Henry seemed to realize everything with this whole sequence. Don't mock me. Don't think you're the only one who can feel good, were his parting words. I hoped never to see his face again. I just hope the loss proceeds smoothly. Left in the hospital room, Lisa saw me and her complexion changed. Hey, you're seeing other men too, aren't you? I don't know what you're misunderstanding, but she hasn't been dishonest about anything. I'm just smitten with her and have been courting her. That made me blush. I looked down, wanting to hide my flushed face. Both sets of parents and Dan watched over me warmly. Later, Henry and Lisa were cut off from the family and chased by debts and damages payments. Henry intended to become a husband to Lisa, but she, declaring she had no interest in a man without money, left him. They also did not take the child. Instead, my parents adopted her and named her Anna. She's a lovely girl. It was always intended that they would take her in, but seeing Lisa abandon her child at the hospital made them realize just how awful she could be. She's not someone who can take care of a child. While my parents are mainly raising Anna, I, having returned home after splitting with Henry, help with her upbringing. I continue to work at my ex-in-law's company, maintaining good relations. My ex-in-laws also dote on my niece as their grandchild. The child is thriving, loved by everyone around her. I heard Lisa, needing to pay me damages, got into the nightclub business, but apparently fell for a host and disappeared before settling her debts. Henry, pursued by debts and damages payments, was ditched by several women who were only after his prospective presidency. Moreover, with his massive debts and damages payments far from over, those he owes money to seem to be reaching their limits. Like Lisa, there's talk around that he might disappear too. Years later, I married Dan. We have 2 children and live happily. Come on, today we're going to Grandma's house. Yay, I'm going to play games with Anna. Don't be too demanding with Anna, okay? My relationship with Anna is good, and she's adored like a real sister by my children. Kate, watch your step. Thanks, Dan. Even after years of marriage, Dan remains kind to me. I fell for your strength of character, he says, cherishing me. With him, I feel we can overcome anything and stay happy forever. It must be a reward from God for all I've been through. Dan, I love you. Me too. I've finally grasped happiness.